Yeah.
Okay, so Billy had a question about some worship songs. A worship song. Well, there's two worship songs. We'll attack one of them because the other one is a really long song, but there are words that he doesn't.
Is this
say.
Billy killing it?
Yes.
Yeah, Billy, you're having your thing. What are you doing, man?
And he's like, he can't justify singing songs that are not like about God's character and nature or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so he specifically gave me a song. And while you were talking a little bit, I read through it. And I mean, to be really honest, I don't really know where he's saying isn't like the character. So maybe I'm all messed up. But it says, before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. Okay. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. So it's just talking about, pre-planning this whole thing out,
Right.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down. It fights till I'm found and leaves the 99. For the most part, those are references of Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that chases me down but meets me where I'm at, that concept. Fights till I'm found. I mean, it was a fight to die for us, it wasn't easy. I couldn't earn it and I don't deserve it. Okay, simple grace. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. So that to me didn't seem...
What did he ask the question? Did he ask a question about it?
Yeah. So the question is... how do we justify singing things about God that have nothing to do with God's character or nature? And I feel like those do.
Billy, I know what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
You dog.
You know him.
Billy and I had a talk
Okay.
not too long ago about the reckless love of God.
Okay, yeah.
And he just doesn't like the word reckless.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is. And so... Billy, I think, just putting the best spin on what the author is doing is, I think that what he's doing is talking about God's love in the sense of it is unbounded and it is without regard to what the consequences are going to be. When you talk about recklessness, it's the idea of being unbounded. You're not caring about the consequences. You're not caring about the repercussions that come from it. You're just doing something, and that's probably what the author was doing. I don't think on any level that God's love is something that's not thought through. But I do think that God's love is something that is given despite the fact that it may not get the results that you plan from it. So Jesus loved the Pharisees, and Jesus loved the Sadducees, and so I think that despite the fact that his kindnesses towards them and his the truth that he gave to them, all that is love. And even the rebukes that he gave them, despite the fact that was going to come back on him, and he was going to pay for those things. In fact, the word love, agape, the word itself means to. It has the idea of loving somebody despite the fact that they're not going to return the love.
Yeah,
and that. I think that's what the author's talking about. So.
Yeah, and if you think about like the way we read the Bible, we have to read the way that the words were written and what words they chose back then and why it would have been chosen back then. And you went through hermeneutics, quite a few weeks ago, give like a little brief. But I mean, like just utilizing hermeneutics in 2018, the word reckless really has a negative connotation, but so just like saying that Jesus was rebellious to some degree would say, oh, that's wrong. But the problem with rebellious, or I mean, not the problem, the positive thing about rebellious is that he was counterculture. He was the opposite. No, he wasn't rebellious to God's way. He was actually in line with God's way, but in line with the human way and the world's way, well, it was rebellious. It was reckless to the world. Why would you love somebody like that? Right. Why would you love Matthew? Why would you love Peter? Why would you love, because that's a reckless love. That doesn't make any sense. So like utilizing it in what it's used for, it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
But I get it. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're done.
And, a lot of times, you can get stuck on words, and so,
Yeah.
That's again, putting the best spin on it. That's what I think that the author was probably talking about. Like Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
Loving a hooker.
Yeah. Totally. That's reckless.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was reckless.
That's
well, I had heard this conversation so many times about a song called "Above All" by Paul Balash, and it says, "You took the fall, or you thought of me above all." So you took the fall and thought of me above all. Mm-hmm. Well, in the context of that, did he think of us above all? Most people, like especially Reformed theology, would say no. He thought of God above all, not us, right? But I think that, first of all, there's two things going on. I think that you have to really read something into that. Right, you have to decide that you're not going to think of it in a certain way. But also, there is a poetic way of writing songs. Mm-hmm. And the first thing of the whole song is above all powers, above all this, above all that. The word above all has been used in a poetic way, just like when we read Revelation. It's written a certain way, And so because it's written a certain way, we can actually look at it in a different way than maybe we would look at another book, right? It's not like one of the Gospels. Yeah. It's very like, this is real life. This is what happened exactly. Revelation is a little more poetic, I guess, in its writing. Same idea with above all. So, but I mean, I'm a songwriter, so I'm going to come from that.
That was my next comment.
Yeah,
Brandon writes songs,
so that's why. But
you're seeing that from his point of view.
Okay,
and when you think about that, Paul's wording there, he thought of me above all. Well, it's that's not necessarily talking about above the Father or above above the Trinity or something like that.
Yeah.
It's talking about above all that he could be considering at the time.
Yeah. Above all
his
the circumstances,
comfort, his
exactly.
circumstances, heaven.
Yeah.
The reason Jesus came down is because he put me above staying in heaven.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
there's I mean, I think there's a lot of those fun conversations.
I do. There have been some songs that I've just been like, really?
Yeah.
They've had bad lyrics or bad theology in their lyrics, and I don't like to sing those. But yeah.
I typically try to cut those out, but but that comes from my point of view of what I think is, and some people are not going to agree with my theology. So then at that point it gets weird.